Hi there, Nigel here with the Drivewire, and I have the 2022 GR86 from Toyota paired with the Subaru BRZ, or Toybaru twins as you may want to call them. Now, I drove the original one, came out about 9 years ago, and wasn't 100% impressed really. In fact, unless you had a racetrack in your backyard, it was fairly difficult to drive on regular roads due to a lack of power, a lack of torque, and some gaps in the rev range that just made it a little bit difficult to drive. Balls out, it was great, but in traffic and in regular normal driving, it was somewhat tricky. So, now we've got the 2022 model. I've heard great things about it. I get to test it for myself. Let's see if this car can change my mind. First of all, I think it looks great from all angles, and I particularly like this bigger crease section at the bottom here. They've made it look a lot more aggressive. It's got these real vents in the side here. Generally done a really good job of making this car look fantastic. Now, this one's a premium model, so it comes with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. If you go for the base model, they're only 17-inch. These are 18-inch. Similar sized tires, but I would take the Pilot Sport 4S's over the regular ones. In fact, I'd probably change them up if I bought a base model. Up front, you've got 11.6-inch rotors with these 2-piston calipers. Now, sadly, Toyota's not offering the Brembo option upgrade with this particular model this time around, which is a shame. So you could just have to go aftermarket. I have driven this quite a little bit. We've got some video later on with us driving it, and I did feel like the brakes did heat up quite a lot. And of course, at the rear, you get single piston calipers with slightly smaller rotors. They're pretty good brakes, but as I said, they do heat up just a tad. Rear 3/4 view is my favorite. I love, on the premium model, you get this additional spoiler. It's slightly bigger than on the standard car. You can see where the crease is right here. And I think it's quite reminiscent of the Toyota Supra. New design on the lights here, these 4 LEDs on either side, GR86 badging, cool looking exhaust outlets factored into the rear bumper. I think it looks really good. Here at the front, the GR86 gets a slightly more aggressive face, slightly larger grille, a little bit more sort of open mouth, with the 2 headlights looking like a pair of eyes, nose and mouth. I think it looks really cool. And then on the side here, these real vents, I can get my fingers through there, are sort of this upside down L shape to complement the rest of the car. So Toyota has tuned the chassis suspension a little bit different to the Subaru BRZ. It's twin. It's got a stronger front knuckle, stiffer anti-roll bars, and also stiffer springs. And they've also retuned the steering as well. I must say, having driven it, it is unbelievably precise. As expected, not a lot of room in the back, but it is a fairly useful trunk. Underneath, you just get a few things. No spare wheel. Now, the rear seats will fold flat, but it's not a hatchback, so large items are not going to fit, but you can poke through some longer items if you needed to. So under the hood is where most of the changes have taken place. It now has a larger engine displacing 2.4 liters. It now has 228 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and 184 foot-pounds, which isn't a huge increase. It's about 28 foot-pounds more than before, but it now kicks in at 3,700 RPM, way lower. It's way more usable. Now, this one in particular is driven through a 6-speed automatic. I couldn't get my hands on the manual one. I'm sure we'll drive one of those pretty soon. So the old one had a really annoying power gap, so that's been smoothed out with some intake plumbing changes, and I'll tell you right now, it really, really works. Now, I'm going to try and get in the back just because I should, and so I'm not quite sure the best way of doing this, but I'm going to climb underneath there. I put this seat forward, close the door, and whoa, see if we can put this seat back. Hopefully I can get out. Okay, so this seat's all the way forward. And to be honest, It's not as bad as I thought, apart from the headroom, which is causing my head to go down. So I think with a bit more headroom, you could spend a little bit of time in the back. But other than that, these are literally token rear seats. Even a child would consider it torture. I'm going to get out now. All right, so inside on this premium model, you get these nice Alcantara seats. They've got manual adjustments, of course, save weight. You get some height adjustment on this one, not on the passenger one. Now, as I said, this is an automatic, but I really like what they've done here. The shifter sort of looks like a manual transmission. In fact, if you look through the window from that side, you would think it's a manual transmission. But as much as I like a stick shift, this one is really good, and we'll show you that when we start driving it. So inside, the GR86 has a new infotainment screen. It's a little better, it's a little faster, it's fairly straightforward and simple to use. Pressing the home button gets you to the main icons here, and they're easy to use. The radio, media, phone. You can go into settings. You can scroll over to the car settings. This is where the eyesight system is, and obviously with the manual transmission you don't get the eyesight system, but with this automatic one you can get reverse automatic braking. You've got various different controls. You can set an alarm on it. There are all sorts of different controls in here. One touch lane changer, lighting, steering responsive headlights, etc. Super easy to use. You can go to apps. Gives you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This is for your roadside assist. Back to home, you can add a shortcut. There's some physical buttons for radio over here, volume and tuning. Super straightforward, easy to use. Then below that, I really like the design here. It's got the stop-start now, which has GR written in the middle of it, easy to see. And then the cool sort of temperature gauges. They're nice and big, bright, easy to control. Just simply turn the fan up or down there. Super easy to do. Mode, you can scoot the air to wherever you need it with these toggle switches. They're a little fatter than the toggle switches on the previous car. You've got the heated rear defogger and front defogger, and then recirc and then sync over on the right hand side. Really clear, simple controls so that you can keep your eye on having a great time in this car. Behind the grille here in the center console, you've got your traction control off, you've got sport and snow settings, and then track settings. So if you go to the driver's digital display, once you hit sport here, you'll see that the sport lights up. You hit snow, it goes into snow mode. No snow here in San Diego, and then you just hit either of them to hit them back to general. Now this is a pretty nice little dash here. I like what it does. You've got a little toggle on the steering wheel. You can either go up or down or left or right. If you go left or right, you get some messages, you get your eyesight system, you can change the units. This is all your different safety systems, etc. What's on the radio, and then your accelerometer or G-force meter, and then back to standard sort of temperature gauges, etc. If you scroll the other way, you can see your average miles per gallon. We're still doing pretty good considering we're thrashing this car within an inch of its life. You've also got average speed, tire pressures, and then back to that. Super easy. On the right hand side, you got your temperature and then your fuel gauge as well. And then you'll notice here, I went into the system and I turned off the lane departure warning because it's annoying. And then back here, in the center console, you get a cup holder here, which is probably the easiest one to use unless you have a stick shift, and then your arm keeps hitting it, your elbow keeps hitting it. And then right here you've got two more cup holders and some basic power here, including an old-fashioned 3.5mm jack, which is nice. This is a nice little system. It closes. The only problem here is, the only real downside here is if your elbow touches this, it keeps opening this door. Other than that, I can't fault this interior. All right, we've just got one thing left to do. That's take this car for a drive. So, very first impressions right off the bat is just by pushing down on the accelerator pedal, you know this car is better already than the previous one. Just tell with the power delivery. Now I have this button right here, so I'm going to hit sport mode. Livens everything up. It's a little chilly this morning, so I got the heated seats on low, and I've picked this quite twisty section of road because I think this little car is going to cope with it really well. We took an RS3 and Alpha Giulia on this particular bit of road, and both of them coped really well. But anything too big and clunky, even if it's fast, doesn't cope well with these really tight, twisty, and to be honest, it's a really technical piece of road. All right, let's see. So already you can hear that the sound is so much better. It doesn't sound like a strained vacuum cleaner like the old one did. Power delivery is really good. You can feel that extra torque almost immediately. Even below 3,000 it goes. Oh yeah, this is great. Control just on the throttle is pretty fantastic. Steering is just perfectly weighted. They played around with it a little bit and it's got feel. Now some of that noise coming into the cabin is piped in through the speakers, but I don't care because it sounds way better than it did before. Man, this thing is alive. It just goes around these corners like it's on rails. Not much body roll. Just a light dab of the brakes. It's a tight one. Not helped by the fact that we're driving into the sun. I like the fact that it holds its revs. Transmission does a pretty good job. Man, this thing is good. Oh, it's such a good improvement. Now, the old one was pretty good in the twisties like this, but it just did not have the power delivery. It was missing that. There was gaps in the power delivery. You could just feel that, you know, you had to rev the balls off it to find the torque band. Torque kicked in, and then you hit the rev limiter. You got to change up again. It was it wasn't the best scenario. And then, you know, getting beaten off the line by a Honda Civic was slightly embarrassing. So 0 to 60 takes around 6.6 seconds. The manual is supposedly quicker. I couldn't get a manual one, but I'm really happy with this automatic. I think I would probably go for the premium one because I like the way these 4S's grip. I mean, if you want to get the tail out a little, go for the base model with the all-season tires, or get that one and get better tires. It's your choice. Suspension is hard. It does ride quite hard, but then what do you expect? It's a little two-seater sports car. Love how the transmission likes to change down. This is a pretty tight 90-degree bend, straight into another right-hander. Oh my God, this thing is good. I never thought I would say that. I was hoping that Toyota Subaru would get it right this time. This is how the car should have been when it first came out. The other one, I had it, you know, for a week, and I just, you know, didn't really want to run many errands in it. This one, I want to take it out all day, every day, and take it for a drive. The thing loves to rev. I do like the sound too. It sounds like a, you know, it's a little engine that's trying as hard as it can. This is super tight left-hander here. Dips, bumps. I mean, this is a great little piece of road. I don't think there'll be too many cars that could get along here as fast as this little thing. It's meant for a small, nimble car with a little bit of power, but still. The old Ford Focus RS would have handled this nicely. But this is an absolute joy. Subaru, Toyota, holy crap, you've done a great job here. And you can feel it rotating around on its through the center. Rear wheel drive's giving you a shove in the back on the straights. What a car! Oh my God, whereas the other one was really, you know, you could excel on a track, but once you got it in the real world, the lack of torque was just irritating. This now has both. It has torque, and it still revs its balls off. What a fantastic little car. And what a fantastic little piece of road, too. I mean, some of these turns are like 15-mile-an-hour turns, and I'll go around this one, get around it at 35 miles an hour. Just a little touch on the brakes, and then power out of the corner. This thing grips really well. That's what you want, really, in something like this. Especially there's a few drop-offs down that side. It's like a little rally car with two-wheel drive. Can't fault it. Brakes do feel like they're good, but they do heat up a lot. And I think I might want to go and aftermarket some Brembos. Alright, so that was the technical bit over. Let's get it on some sort of faster two-lane highways, a little wider. See how it does. Gets up to speed really quite quickly, actually. Now we're doing more than we should on this particular stretch of road. This particular piece has got, the pavement's pretty bad, so you can definitely feel it under the seat. But this thing tracks so well. I'm running out of words to describe how good this car is, but you know, you sit really low to the ground, so you feel like you're going faster than you really are, but then you look at the speedo and go, wow, am I really going that fast? Yes. Put your foot down, and it goes. I'm loving this. Oh my God. Seriously, if you want me to pick something up from the store for you, I'll do it anywhere. Now you're gonna have to get used to, it's quite noisy inside, but it's a nice noise now rather than a horrible noise before. But if you back off the gas and you're doing like, you know, 80 or so, it's fairly quiet. The tires are good because they're Michelin's, they don't make a lot of noise. And it revs all the way up to 7,500. Holds the revs in sport mode. Wow. That was a phenomenal little test. Absolutely love this car. It's amazing that I really didn't like it the first time around. Everybody raved about this car, and then when I drove it, I felt a little bit let down. And this time I had lower expectations, thinking, well, you know, there's a lot of talk about making it turbocharged, making an STI version. I think that might have spoiled it. I think it needs to be a small engined, naturally aspirated little Japanese sports car. They used to make them in the 60s. Tiny little engines, but great fun, lightweight. This weighs around 2,800 pounds, so they've only added about 80 pounds to the total weight. It doesn't matter which one you go for, you are not gonna go wrong. And for a shade over $31,000, this is a supremely fun little car, and I'd like to keep it for longer than a week, but unfortunately Toyota won't let me. Anyway, once again, appreciate you watching. Please like, subscribe. If you have an old model one of these, get a drive in this right now. We'll catch you with another video next time. Out.